Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, wherever you are in the world right now. This is Hellblazer Biz with your host, as always, me, Chris Gordon. Well, this is a difference, isn't it? I'm on video. This is actually a first for me. So, without further ado, you should have heard the interview by now. Now you can actually see it as well. I bring to you the wonderful, the enigmatic Kenny Johnson.
I have the privilege of the company of Kenny Johnson today. Kenny,
Hey
how are you?
Chris.
Hey, excellent. I do appreciate this, especially as you've just come out from looks like a heavy workout.
Yeah, yeah, it was. It was this guy Lars. Lars is like the Swedish jiu-jitsu champion, and I normally train with Justin Fortune, who's Manny Pacquiao's strength and conditioning coach. And
Mm-hmm.
for some reason, Lars has been in the gym early, and he's been trying to get me to do his workout. So he kicked my ass the other day, and now he killed me just now. And brand new workouts, which are good, but it's like shocking my whole system. So yeah, it's crazy. Yeah.
Nice, nice. I really need to get to the gym myself. I used to do wrestling. I'm 41, and I took up professional wrestling at the age of 38.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Holy crap. Okay.
Unfortunately, 18 months into it, I fell out of the ring and tore a quad muscle, and I've lost the use of a quad muscle in my leg, so I can't get back in the ring again.
Oh man. I just
Sadly.
did a movie with Goldberg. Goldberg.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Goldberg. So he played my best friend in this film, and he's going back now in the Royal Rumble. He just beat Brock Lesnar, and he's going back to do 9 appearances and then
Uh-huh.
get into the Royal Rumble to see if he's going to be, and he's a guy, he's like 48 now or something like that. I mean, he's
Yeah.
getting up there, and he's got a lot of injuries. I mean, when we shot the film, he gets through it, but he trains like a mofo, but he's got a ton of injuries that he fights through. He's got
Uh-huh.
that. You got to have that killer mentality, no
Yeah.
matter what. I mean, if you want to be the best of the best, nothing's going to stop you, and he's one of those guys.
Oh god, yeah. I mean, I think 2 years ago there was one of the British guys, Lionheart, I think his wrestling gimmick is.
Right.
He broke his neck in the ring. He actually broke it, but 12 months later he was back in there.
That's crazy.
Thankfully it wasn't a severe break. It was just like a crack on one move. But yeah, 12 months later, as you say, determination. He got straight back up there. Me,
That's-
I'm just a lazy ass.
No, you're smarter than others, man. I mean, you really don't want to be, you don't want to get into that position where, look, you break your neck, you sever a spine, you're in a wheelchair the rest of your life, wait out. Do you want to actually chance that or, not? If you're the best of the best in the world, I could see maybe somebody's like, that's just in my genetics, I need to, and I'll live or die by that. But if you're not the best of the best, make the right decision and find something else like what you're doing right now, which is awesome.
Oh yeah, definitely. I've got to say,
Yeah.
as a TV and film fan, I'm much preferring this. To be fair,
Yeah.
I get to hang out and chat with my favourite guys.
Right on, brother.
Brilliant.
Right on.
As you know, I've got a lot of questions for you.
right.
We'll get through as many as we can.
Yeah,
Otherwise, we'll be here all day. So.
that's all right, man.
Cool. So, what made you decide to become an actor in the first place?
It was I feel like it kind of chose me, I grew up watching TV shows and fantasizing. I remember when, what was it? Happy Days was on. And I remember they took a trip out to, Hollywood, where Fonz was going to do an appearance or something.
Mhm.
And somehow they liked Richie Cunningham.
Yeah.
But I remember growing up in Vermont on a farm, and they came from a small town and flew out to L.A., and it got planted in my head, like, wow, wouldn't that be cool to get out of a small town and do something like that?
Yeah.
But I never thought of it beyond that. And I was in like 7th grade or something like that, or, whatever it was. And I played sports in college, and I thought I was going to be a pro sports player, but I got an injury and broke my 5th lumbar vertebrae. And so that kind of knocked me out of actually pursuing that to where I wanted to. And I realized that wasn't going to happen. So didn't know what I wanted to do. I got in a lot of trouble back in Boston. I grew up in the East Coast, and I don't know. I just wasn't close with my family, so I got on a plane one day, made a decision to come to California. I didn't know anybody. I thought, come here, and I was modeling at the time when in Boston as a thing to do. It's not because I thought, I want to be a model, but somebody suggested it and hooked me up with an agency. I made money, and I came out here, and I did that with like Ford and Wilhelmina, and I started out with like, Tommy Hilfiger before he hit it big. And
Mm-hmm.
I did Ocean Pacific and Speedos and PCH and a bunch of lines, Mizuno. And it was just until I figured out what I wanted to do. And accidentally, somebody wrote a film and brought it to me and said, look, I did this thing and I wrote a part as my best friend. Would you do it? And I said, I said no. Like for 3 weeks straight, I said, I'm not an actor. I've never acted. And he goes, yeah, but I wrote it for you. And I'm like, so I said, if you get somebody to help me memorize it, because I had a really bad reading disability, like dyslexia, but severely.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't realize that's what it was at the time. I just thought I couldn't read.
Right.
So he had a girl help me learn the role. And just the first, I had a few epiphanies in my life and kind of experiences where I wasn't really religious or didn't really understand what God was, but I had a few experiences like totaling cars where things like kept me in place with no seatbelt, and I remember never hitting anything, and the cars were all crunched, and I just realized something else was out there. So when I was doing this film, the first take of the first scene, I just remember standing there watching about 100 people all around me running around like little ants, and I was very calm, and I'm like watching, and I didn't know what I was doing except for I'm in the scene, and this is between me and another guy. And I heard somebody say roll sound, and as I heard action, everything froze. Like in a movie, everything stood still, and this thing whooshed through me like this whoosh, and this voice said, this is what you're going to do the rest of your life. And then it whooshed out the back of me, and then everybody started moving. And I was like, what's that? I'm like, that was so weird, but it was a voice that was like a truth voice, and I don't know where it came from, but I'm like, shit. I go, okay, now I have to do this thing, follow this thing. We did the movie, and it won a bunch of awards, and then I started seeking out the best acting teachers and coaches and things that I could find in the country, and I studied every day, probably 12 to 16 hours a day, like 5-6 days a week for 4 years, trying to take in what I could. And I had a lot of phobias and personal issues, so it made me address those. And it wasn't like, oh, I want to be an actor, no, I can't wait. But I did try to overcome everything I was bad at. And through it just kind of brought me to a place where I think I processed a lot of real issues in my life. And once I got out the other side, I felt like I had a piece of something to share through characters, but not selfishly, but really to breathe my experiences without ever having to tell anybody what my life was or what I'd been through characters. And that's kind of how I did it. So it was by accident, but in retrospect, it kind of saved my life and it gave me a purpose, so.
Yeah. Wow.
I don't know if that sounds weird or whatever, but that's my story.
Yeah, that's it's a powerful story as well. I think it's the first time I've ever heard that kind of a background, that kind of a story turning your life around like that. That's pretty awesome. Yeah. I know what you mean. There's a kind of a moment where it just sort of everything just fits into place.
Yeah.
Clarity sort of hits you, and then that's it then.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, that was it. I mean, I got to say I was a person who didn't appreciate life or people, and I just wanted to hide, and I was very phobic, and I just didn't like life or even being here, so it was weird how this thing kind of came to me, and it made me actually fall in love with people and life. And I traveled the world, and I studied cultures, and I did everything before I actually wanted to get on film, because I wanted to give something genuine. I didn't want to be fake. And I'm like, this is my one life and one time in life. It's just like, so do what you can to take in, and then how can you give back, and I try to be an example of some sort, in a good way. I try,
No, that's cracking. Really is good. And I think it's brilliant. The fact that you do portray these characters on screen as well, it's definitely a role model, because people do look up to people on TV, and especially yourself. The characters that you have played have been quite, what's the word? Tormented as well in their own right, but they've always had a good heart. Lem and Crozet, they're always really down in their hearts. They're good guys, and it's good to see that you have got that. There's that tormentor in those characters that you play, and it seems to come through a lot in your career, I think.
Well, thank you, man. I mean, the writing for something like The Shield is really kind of hang on. Sorry. It's kind of really Yeah, it's pretty brilliant, and in itself, it's like, you know, I mean, life imitates art. Art imitates life, I guess you would say.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, I mean, we all have flaws, and we're all trying to be better people. And we all mess up all the time, and like, do we learn from it or not, or do we go through the same lessons? And like Lem is a perfect example of, you know, he goes along with stuff. He tries to do the right thing, but he knows inside what they're doing progressively gets morally wrong, and he's challenged, and ethically it's just like, this is bad. And they're, you know, once they mess up and they get the wrong guy and they kill him and get rid of him in acid or something and burn his body, I started thinking, like, realistically, I go, what if me in real life Kenny did this? I go, what would happen? Like, I couldn't sleep at night, you know. So then the more I got into the characters and would, you know, shoot during the day, and I would freebase writing journals every night for 20 or 30 pages just because I wanted to keep my life alive, you know. And I started having problems sleeping, and then I started getting like real stomach ulcers, and that all played into it because Sean started writing for all that stuff, because the more I would talk about it, the more he wrote for it, you know, because he's like, oh, this is great because it's real, you know. It's like, so it's kind of wild, you know.
That's pretty awesome, man. The Shield's got to be one of my favourite cop shows of all time. It's just, it's just brilliantly done. Like I say, you guys as the actors, and obviously the writing behind it as well. The storylines were just phenomenal. And you know, it's hard to explain, but trying to,
I guess
you really like, you know, you weren't exactly the best of guys out there, but in the end game, all you wanted to do was put things to right, and put the city to its right, you know, rightful place, and whichever means it took.
Yeah, does the end justify the means? I mean, that was like the big question. And it's like funny, like season 5 when Forrest Whitaker, you know, is a brilliant actor, and he's IAD, and he's trying to bring us down, and he personally was shocked by how many people hated him. Because he was trying to bring us down, and we were like not good guys. And he was like, what is wrong with people out there? He goes, I'm actually doing the right thing, and my character is doing the right thing, and people hate me. He was like so confused by it all. It's like, it's funny how they cheer for the, you know.
Oh, God, yeah. The anti-hero, you know, like, isn't it?
Yeah. If I'm sweating, it's because I did an hour and a half of Kundalini yoga, and I came here to do that boxing workout for another hour and a half. So I had 3 hours of workout, which is and it's hot outside. So
that's all right.
Yeah, that's my whole sweat deal.
That's not a problem. What kind of inspirations? Who were your inspirations when you started out acting? Any screen icons or anyone that you looked up to?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I went back and I think I watched about 300 black and white films. So the old ones, and I would say Montgomery Clift was my favorite actor. You know, and then Brando, James Dean, Marilyn Monroe. I watched, you know, a lot of Betty Davis before she hit it big, and then Elizabeth Taylor, and then, you know, Cary Grant. I watched all the black and white films, and before I watched any regular ones, you know, and I kind of felt like, you know, and there was a realism about like Montgomery Clift that was the first time he ever tried that on screen, and it changed the face of how people acted, and there was something very real about all that stuff, and I just wanted to be real when I acted. For me, I mean, it was all about like, is this believable and genuine? And that's all I wanted, to find the truth of things, you know. I mean, that was my journey, you know.
Excellent. Well, those kind of films as well, they're very classic acting styles, and it's before the years of what do you call it, SFX and stuff, where people green screens and something like that. So, you know, it was a proper, everyone was proper interactions between people, and so it's a great era, I think, probably to study when you're looking into going in. Not that I know, but yeah, it's obviously a great era to look at for the proper classical actor, classically trained, because a lot of them weren't they? They did a lot of theatre and Shakespearean stuff at that sort of era too.
Right.
So yeah, no, excellent. Okay, a bit of an off-the-wall question now. I've got to thank, by the way, Lauren for some of these questions. Well, a lot of these questions. You know her as Lauren SFXX on Twitter. She is, bless her. She's really grateful, by the way, for you to follow her. You followed her the other day or the other week, and she's over the moon. But yeah, she's sent me loads of questions in for you, which is great.
Okay.
What superhero would you be out of? Thor, Hulk, Iron Man, or Captain America?
I'd want to be Thor, because my dad was born in Sweden and my mom was born in Latvia, so I've got that Scandinavian blood in me, So at heart, I feel like, I'm a warrior in some sort of way. I think we all are, but my ancestors came from over there, so I like Thor. Yeah.
Excellent. A Viking at heart.
Yeah, I know.
You should get yourself on that show.
Yeah. I wanted to. Travis Fimmel's a good friend of mine.
All right.
I was pushing all my team. I said, please get me on that show. I'm dying to be. And they didn't. I mean, they hired a lot of English and Irish because it was shot over in Ireland.
Yeah.
And so, they brought my friend Donald Logue over to do a season. But I never got in on that. But anyways, I love the show. I mean, I do. I love that show.
Yeah, it's a corker of a show, that one, to be fair.
Yeah.
I binge watched it. I didn't know everyone was telling me about it, and so I ended up. I was off for 3 or 4 weeks at work, in between contracts. So I thought, you know what, let's catch up on Viking. That was it. Started it, and I just couldn't stop. It was just like the entire day I was just vegged on the sofa watching Vikings. It was brilliant.
The DP on that who did all the lighting for season 1, actually his name's John Bartley, and he's our DP for Bates Motel.
All right.
And he also, and he was the DP for X-Files, so he's always got a very specific thing in mind. And I remember him always talking about Travis, like he wanted to light Travis in a very specific way that just made those blue eyes like pop. And there was something about him that was magical, but a lot of it is in the DP and the lighting and the camera guys and what they do and how they tell the story,
Oh god, yeah, definitely. I think I've got to say, sorry, I know we're off topic. Floki is one of my favourites. Oh, this little Ragnar with his
I know.
His little twinkling hands,
Yeah. Great character, man.
Yeah, definitely. Cool. Moving on. Again, these are some weird questions before we move on to your career.
Nothing's weird.
Well, I say weird and just out of the ordinary.
I like. Offbeat is best, dude. It's perfect. Okay.
If you were any animal for a day, what would you be and why?
I'd be a Black Panther.
Cool.
Why? I don't know. I keep feeling like I had been reincarnated from a cat. So I've always had obsessions with Black Panthers. And then my grandparents who came over from Riga during the war, they always had a Black Panther on their TV, and so I had a chance that somebody knew when I was doing the Shield, the camera guy knew a place where they had Black Panthers, so he brought me up there with his girlfriend, and I went up with my girl at the time, my girl who's now my wife, and I met the female, which was young and skittish, and she was kind of crazy, but they had heard that I was good with animals, so I signed off on if I get killed, it's my own fault. And he realized I had a connection with this animal. I had no fear. So he had a male that was about 235 pounds, and he says, "Listen, I get you actually have a connection. Do you want to walk my male panther for a walk?" And I'm like, "Hell yeah!" And so I signed off. Like, if he kills me, it's my own fault. He put him on a chain, and I walked him 3 miles out into the desert, which was like 2.5 hours north of LA. And it was the most awesome thing in the world, and came back. And so for some reason, I mean, I would love to be like King Kong too, you know what I mean? I mean, see things through the eyes of King Kong, but I don't know. I've been obsessed with panthers, so yeah, that's it.
Fair enough. That's pretty awesome character to be. I actually came face to face with a panther. Here's my little claim to fame. In the wild, yeah, we were as strange as it would have it. Bear with me. As strange as it would have it, I used to do reenactment, World War II reenactment.
Right.
But we used to train at weekends in an old airfield in the middle of England, and there had been a story that was not a story. It was true that a panther had escaped from the local zoo.
Jesus.
Yeah. So there's us in the middle of the night. I actually went across for a little wander across this airfield, and there's like a hedgerow at the end.
Right.
And as I was shining my torch, I kid you not, literally about 20 feet away, these massive yellow eyes, literally about this far apart, just stared straight back at me. And obviously then, it was a sphincter moment of, oh shit! It's like, what do I do? All my mates were back about, they're about, about 150 yards away in the tents. And I was like on my own in the middle of the night, staring off this pan. And I was just like, it was staring at me, and I was staring back.
Wow.
And it was like, oh my God. So I called everyone over. And I told them, I said, look, just over there. And as they came, they all saw and they all witnessed, because as we shone the torch back again, it just bounded off and like every 6 or 8 feet, you could just see the glint of its eyes.
Right.
It must have eaten that night, because that was pretty clear. Literally 20 feet from a wild panther. It was
Dude, that's scary. That's crazy.
It got caught a few weeks later, but yeah, that was a.
Oh God! Did they kill him, or they put him down with a tranquilizer?
Put him back in the zoo. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, I don't like it when they kill him like that. It's not their fault. That's what they're supposed to be, isn't it? Free.
I know. Yeah, exactly. I know, right? Exactly.
Awesome. So, if someone made a movie on your life and you could choose any actor in the world to play you, who would you pick and why?
Either Brad Pitt or Travis Fimmel. You know, I mean, I really like Travis, and he's very offbeat, and he's got this offbeat, quirky sense of humor that I really like. And you know, again, Brad Pitt. You know, I did a Pringles commercial with him way back, right before he did Thelma and Louise, and I just remember really connecting with him. And there's something very earthy about Brad that kind of reminds me of me. So if I were to, you know, pick anybody, I would do one of those guys. Yeah.
Awesome. Two very good actors. I could see.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, I mean, yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say I can see bits of them in you anyway. You know, a bit of Travis Fimmel in the look and with your hair like that, a bit of Brad.
Right.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool.
They're very earthy guys, you know, and they come from, like, Brad comes from the Midwest of Missouri, and you know, Travis comes from like the 5,000 acre ranch and outside in between, I think, Sydney and Melbourne, and he's just an extremely just earthy, genuine guy, and we all connect in a way where, you know, it's effortless, and everyone else is trying to be Hollywood or trying to be actors, and we just all kind of look at each other like we're just regular people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there's a thing that you just understand, and that's kind of why I would say that. Yeah.
Fair enough. Down to earth is a great sort of good analogy, but that's great to hear, especially for someone like you, say Brad, and as well.
Yeah.
Everyone who just sees him, well, people like me, all we ever see him is on the big screen. So. Yeah. As his persona. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. What's your favourite band and artist, music wise? What are you into? That kind of thing.
I like Numb, Linkin Park. The song Numb. I like Johnny Lang sings the blues. I love blues. I love you look at Lady Gaga. I love her. I love Eminem. I love Rihanna. There's so many different artists. The Cranberries. I mean, you name it. Depending what mood I'm in, it crosses across. I love musicals or things from Les Mis or classical opera singers. I don't have any specific genre. I don't like jazz, and I know people will hate me for it. I've tried. I've gone to every jazz club. I've known a lot of jazz singers that were famous, and I don't like jazz. It's just my thing. And I also, country, I mean, I went to a Reba concert because my friend, did a tour with her, and I have a hard time getting into country also. But everything else I think I can listen to and identify with, and I'll never say I have a favorite. I mean, I love U2. I mean, U2 is, like, phenomenal. But there's just not any specific band that I would say this is my favorite band. I literally get moved by it. Music moves me incredibly. It's such a pure form of expression that, again, every role or every part I do, I have an iPod with like 1,000 songs, and I go to things that trigger me off and bring me into these areas of my emotions or my life or things that bring up stuff, and I just walk around, like method acting, listening to the music, getting ready until they say, okay, Kenny, it's you're up, and then I go and kind of just begin in the moment.
Awesome. It does actually sound very much like my playlist.
Yeah.
Eminem, Rihanna, musicals. I love Les Mis as well. Massive fan of musicals. Me and the wife and the family adore them. But yeah, you're right. It just depends on the mood, I think, of what kind of music you do listen to. And it does affect you. I mean, if I am working out, which is quite rare lately, then Eminem's a great one for me. If I'm hitting the bike down the beach and stuff, it's great.
No doubt, man. You got a beach by your house?
Oh yeah, I live North Wales, so literally about 400 yards. I've got about 6-7 miles of beach.
That's nice.
Right, yeah. sadly we don't have the weather you have, which would be nice if we hadn't, since we got the beach. It's
Yeah.
You go down there and pretty much freeze your ass off every time you go down, but
yeah. That's crazy.
It's nice to have. It's good to have.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on to some questions now about your career.
Okay.
And the jobs that you've done. Simon,
Okay.
I hope I'm pronouncing this guy's name right. Simon Barre Brisbois follows me. He says, during your career, you've worked on the pilot of Aquaman, which unfortunately didn't get accepted as a series. What was your what was your memory of working on such a show based in the water environment, and how do you wish the series would have gone had it been accepted?
I mean, it did really well on iTunes. It did great on iTunes, and I know that blonde kid who was Aquaman, I got along great with him, and he and I clicked really well. And I know the director, executive producer, and the writers were the guys from Smallville, and they were like super nice. And I think they thought it was gonna take off, and it just didn't hit, so they canceled it. And I mean, I'm a huge fan of, like, because of my daughter, like Ariel and the underground world, and that whole thing is really awesome to me. And I just remember the guy who now is on a show on Fox that's a huge hit show. I can't remember his name, but he was the lead kid in Aquaman, and he was just such a down-to-earth, nice, great kid who was full of compliments. And I just really, I liked the concept, and I thought it would have been a really good show to pursue. I mean, unfortunately, I think come off the Shield, and I remember Greg Beeman wanted me to come for one of the leads in the show, and I didn't do it, and he was really bummed. I mean, he was like, really bummed at me. Like, he goes, I want you to play this character, and I'm like, I just don't see that as my career move, So I kind of did, my role as a favor, but it was going to be a reoccurring role. They could have done anything with it, but at the same time, I wasn't right for that part. I just did it because, it was Greg and it was Aquaman. I thought that would be cool, but yeah.
All right, cool. Fair enough. Nice answer, thank you. Cool. And moving on to Sons of Anarchy, again, this is Lauren. Who's the funniest actor on set and to work with?
Boone. Yeah, who's the funniest guy in there? Booney is the funniest dude in the world. I would say Boone, Charlie Hunnam, because Charlie was crazy. And all he wanted to do was wrestle, kickbox, or try jiu-jitsu, and everybody pranked on everybody. Like Boone would be standing there between takes. Charlie would run full speed, clothesline him off of his chair. He'd fall down, and then Boone, who looks like he's an out-of-shape kind of whatever guy, is actually super strong, and he used to play college soccer. He would chase Charlie, and then I would dive on Boone. Boone would get on the ground. Charlie would dive on him. Then Flanagan would jump on me and try to choke me out because he didn't want me to hurt Boone. And it was like we were nonstop busting on each other. But another guy who was funny as anything, who had the driest, wittiest sense of humor was Clay.
Right.
Ron Perlman. I mean, dude, he just made comments that were these dry, witty, off-handed comments that nobody got. And every time he'd make it, I'd be cracking up, and he'd look over like, who's laughing? He's like, oh, Kenny. And then he'd wait, he'd be alone, and he'd do another comment, I'd be like rolling, and he'd be like, oh yeah, he gets me. Like, and I got along great with him. So I would say Charlie Boone and Charlie Boone and
Clay.
and Pearl. Perlman were funniest mofos ever.
Oh, that's fantastic. Really good. It's great to hear when you have such an atmosphere and such a vibe on set when you're messing around off set as well. It's
oh, dude, it was non-stop. What you saw on set and off set was the same thing, except for we got a lot more physical offset. You know what I mean? It was crazy.
Good God. I can imagine that's considering what you were doing on set, that's a pretty good statement to make.
Yeah.
Cool. What was your favorite? What was your favorite memory from the show?
My favorite memory from the show. Oh man. I mean, it's like it's so tough because there's so many of them. I mean, I really I loved when we were all around the table and we all played off of each other. That was awesome. I liked my thing with Tig. I liked the fight scene because I like to fight with people. So that was fun. there's just a thing, I don't know, there's a synergy that goes on when people really get each other.
Mm-hmm.
And that was all great. I mean, riding bikes were awesome. Getting on and taking off were awesome. I think, some of my favorite memories is like not on the set shooting, but, off,
Mm-hmm.
because all we did is wrestle. Like, if we had all day long, again, me and Charlie and Boone constantly fought each other, and,
Yeah.
Charlie's and then we had a punching bag in the clubhouse.
Mm-hmm.
So the competition was who had the strongest punch.
Yeah.
And out of everybody, and I'm talking every extra, every real biker, if it's 300 or 400 pounds or whatever, would punch the bag to get the pounds per pressure. And Charlie had the record, and he could hit hard. He's long and lanky. And so I set the record left-handed, and I did it on a hook. Right-handed, I got second. Charlie got first. And this is out of, probably hundreds of people that have tried for years.
Yeah.
And so me and Charlie were first and second. I was first left. He was first right. I was second right.
Mm-hmm.
But he would wind up and come running with an overhand right. Mine was standing in a standing position with my fists up, turning my hips and coming straight into it. And I almost got about the same as him, which was about, somewhere around 1,000 and something pounds of pressure.
Bloody hell.
About 1,050 or something like that. So it was like, maybe a little more than that, but it was, as much as professionals do,
Yeah, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
I'll probably get about 50 pounds.
Ah.
That's awesome. How did you manage to end up on SOA in the first place?
Well, Sutter, who created the show, was one of the executive producers and writers of The Shield.
Yeah.
And I was there for the 5 years. And my famous scene at the end of the 5th season of The Shield is I get blown up by my best friend, which is Shane, with a grenade. And Kurt wrote that scene. And, the thing about the writers on The Shield were they were so passionate about what they did, and they were very competitive. So I remember, I'm not going to use his name, but there was another guy in him, and they had two different versions of what they wanted, and they both show ran it with Sean, and they got in a fist fight over it, and they had to break them up in the room because they were that passionate about why they felt what they felt. They ended up being a fist fight, which is great. And Kurt ended up getting his way. So, he had talked to me about doing a biker show, but I went from my show to a show with Holly Hunter for 3.5 years. And so they had started up SOA during that time. So the day, 3.5 years later, they canceled Saving Grace. When they announced it in the papers, he called me up and he says, "How'd you like to come play with the big boys?" And I'm like, "Hell yeah, dude." I said, because I'd gone to all of his screenings and everything, and I was a big supporter of those guys. And so he just said, "Let me intro you at the end of season 2. I know you're finishing your show up, and season 3, come on, and we'll go from there. And if it all works out, I'll make you a series regular season 4, and you'll be on the show." And things kind of changed for reasons I don't want to talk about, but they changed, and there we are. So that was it.
All right, excellent.
Yeah.
Was Kurt then the last words of Herman in Sons of Anarchy? Was that an inside joke then? Yeah,
exactly. He made me do one take for the gimmick reel where I heard the thing go like that. I knew it was a mine, and I turn and I go, "Shane."
Yeah.
Shane, and I scream out Shane, and then I blow up. So he did one of those, and then he did the other ones like, "You gotta be shitting me," which to me was like, number one, I couldn't believe he was killing me because he didn't need to, and number two, it was kind of like an homage to the whole thing because he wrote the other scene where I got blown up with a grenade.
Excellent.
Not really, but
but
yeah.
Nice bit of irony there, and
yeah. That's what he thought.
Yeah. Okay, you mentioned Tiggs as well. Obviously, Kim Coates. You both had some interesting scenes together with a lot of tension. What was it like to work with Kim and shoot those scenes between you until you're finally ready to be accepted again by Tiggs?
It was kind of interesting because Kim didn't want to do his own fight scenes, and he'll argue in front of a crowd of 1,000 people like, "Johnson, you're making this up. That's bullshit." I'm like, no. He begged me not to do a fight scene.
All right, okay.
He says, "Look, we're at an age we don't need to fight. This is what stuntmen are for." And I'm like, dude, I box. I've been an athlete my whole life. I'm doing my own fights. I've never had a stunt man.
Cool.
He's like, what are you talking about? So we argued, and then finally he realized I was not gonna back down. So he's like, fine, let's freaking do this. That's fine. So we rehearsed it like about 50 times, and in the very last take, we had a thing where after the fight we run up, and we like two bulls jump into each other, and they freeze there and cut away. And I just happened to go to the left, and I had my arm up, and I had it really relaxed, and it caught him under the neck, and he dropped, and he started screaming like I had hit a dog or something. He was wailing, and I thought he was joking. He's down there screaming at the top of his lungs, and I'm looking down like, is he joking or not joking? But apparently, I don't know what I did to him, but yeah. And then it got to like he jumped up and started swearing at me and oh yeah, all this shit. And then I started getting madder. Like, dude, you get my face one more time, I'm gonna hit you.
Yeah.
So we had it was fun because we had a love-hate relationship. And it worked like that. Like when I first started, they said like Kim likes to improvise and he'll steal a lot of your lines. And I'm like, well, what are you talking about? So then we'd be doing a scene together, and information he doesn't know, as he's doing his lines, he'd improvise my lines. And he would somehow psychically know all the information I was going to give to him that he's not supposed to know.
Right.
And I'd be like, dude, what are you doing? He goes, what are you talking about, Johnson? What? I said, you're saying all my own stuff, so I go to the director, I go, look, dude, let him do his own monologue. I don't want to be in the scene because they wrote the scene for me to share this with him. Yeah. He doesn't know, but if he's going to say all my lines, what am I doing in the scene? And so they'd talk to him, and he'd still do it. And I'm like, Kim, you're doing all my freaking lines, dude. You're saying things that you are not supposed to know.
Yeah.
He's like, all right, Johnson, all right, yeah, we'll try to stick to the line. And I'm like, oh my God, I go, So I dealt with that with him a lot, which was good because it made me pissed off at him.
Yeah.
And so he was a really nice guy in person. He's a Canadian dude, nicest guy in the world, but he really ticked me off.
Yeah.
So it was work between our characters because we had that history,
Awesome, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Excellent. So, okay, another off-the-wally one. If you had to live on a desert island with one of your Sons of Anarchy cast members for 1 year, with just each other for company, who would it be and why? Maybe not Kim.
Yeah. No, there's two. No, one there's two. I gotta say flat out. Charlie Hunnam's a really good friend of mine. Charlie and I are very competitive. We love to work out. I love the way he thinks. He's a really smart guy. He's super driven in life. And everything about him is awesome and loves to explore things. Ryan Hurst is one of my best friends, like a soulmate. Like he literally has become my best friend in my life right now. And he's on Bates Motel with me. And he and I, like we do Kundalini together, which sounds whatever, but he's one of my best friends in real life. So to me, Ryan, but he's not, I don't know if he'd be doing the same workouts. He'd be wanting to meditate and all that all the time, where Charlie would be like, competitive to do stuff, And so if it was a year, I would think Charlie would be like a boot camp for a year. If it was Ryan, it would be like going to India for a year, learning spiritual enlightenment. You know what I mean? So there we are. There's two guys.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, I wouldn't want a boot camp for a year if you're stuck on a desert island. Well, mind you, want to keep yourself fit and healthy, wouldn't you?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you'd come out of it looking like Arnie.
Yeah.
Best shape of your life.
I know, right?
Okay, moving on to Bates Motel. Obviously, that's a cracking another top series, which is 5 seasons now. It's just coming out.
5th season. Yeah. Just won People's Choice Award.
Well done.
Just won.
Yeah, I missed that.
Yeah, Vera won Best Actress and Freddie won Best Actor. So it was good because we normally get snubbed by like Golden Globes and Emmys, and it's such a brilliantly written film, and everyone's acting and chemistry seems to be so spot on that I'm always bummed that it's not. But I love the fact that people voted and it was the people's choice. And to me, that's kind of like worldwide. I'm like, yay. I'm like, I'm more happy just for the cast and crew and everyone that puts in so much work, you know, and the writers and creators, because it's a dope show, you know.
Oh God, it is, yeah, definitely. And like you say, the people's choices, it shows what the people want. I mean, the Golden Globes, as good as they all are, and all the, you know, the Oscars, obviously, they are the epitome of what, you know, what you guys do as actors. But the people's award, that's the one which the people vote for, and that's what people, you know. So you know straight away that people love it.
It's a cool thing. It's
yeah,
a cool
definitely.
thing. Yeah.
That was a long-winded way for me to say that. Then.
No, it's cool. You said it perfect.
Cool. I mean, you started off obviously just as a recurring role in season 2 with Caleb. How did you feel when you got informed that you're now becoming one of the main people in it from season 3?
Well, it was pretty awesome. I mean, you know, like, yeah, when I, you know, it was like this girl, Alex Cunningham, who created a show called Prime Suspect with Maria Bello, and it was a famous English show with Helen Merriman. Yeah, so they converted it into a, you know, like a New York cop series, and I played Maria's boyfriend, live-in boyfriend, who was an architect. And the lady who created that, did it with Peter Berg, and she wrote the role for Caleb. You know, she wrote the role and called me up and said, "This is what I'm doing. I'm writing a role for you know, you." And she goes, "To play Vera's brother, and I think you'd be perfect for it." And she goes, "I'm going to pitch it to Carrie and Carlton, and I have no power over whether they're going to go for it or not, but just know that I'm writing this with you in mind." And I'm like, "Okay, cool." So I got a call, like, you know, like, I don't know, like about a week and a half later from Carrie saying, you know, "We're offering you the role." So I was like jumping up and down. And then when she told me the storyline, I was even more ecstatic, you know. And then when I thought about it, I thought, oh, wow, that's going to be a challenging thing to overcome. I'm like, you know, what they set it up as. So I knew when I came in, I'm like, that's really weird, because it was always meant for 3 episodes and then it was never going to be talked about again. And I'm like, Max, who's an awesome actor, you drop a bomb, everybody finds out, and then all of a sudden I'm gone and you never address it again. And I kept thinking, like, that's kind of weird and it doesn't really make sense. I go, they dropped a bomb on the show. How can you never talk about it again, you know? In my head, I thought that, and Vera was thinking the same thing. So she kept saying, like, she goes, the first scene I did with her, she goes, "You know what? You should be on the show." She goes, I'm going to write those guys right now and tell them that I think you should be on the show, because how could they drop this and not do anything with it, you know? And then between then and the end of the season, you know, Carlton had thought about it, and Carrie, and Carlton called me up and said, you know, "I'm going to offer you a series regular to come on for the season, because your character came off kind of so cool and creepy, and something about him was so awesome that I liked, that I want to explore that. Would you come back and be a series regular?" And, you know, and he did. He offered it straight up, and there we went. And I had to leave for most of 4 because they thought that I would have known too much inside information not to kind of address it in front of people. So I needed to just disappear. And then season 5, which is coming out in about, 26 days, I've got some of the dopest stuff they've ever written for me. And Ryan Hurst is some of the best stuff, and Vera and Freddie. It is really cool. I mean, I think it's just such a special, far out there, wild season. It's going to be so crazy. It's really cool. And Rihanna came on this year to play the Marion Crane character, who gets stabbed in the original in the
Oh yeah.
So she came on and did her thing, and it's really great. So yeah, I was like so stoked. I mean, I was so psyched.
Awesome. I mean, it must be a great feeling. Let's say, because the show itself is very unique. Like you said before, the DP for it was on the X-Files, and you can see that in the way it's filmed. You know, the way things have been set up, the way the suspense, the lighting, everything. It's just very, very. It just draws you right in. Yeah. And I gotta say one thing about Freddie Highmore too, who I love to death, and he's such a nice kid, and he's brilliant with what he does. If you ever saw the original movie Psycho, and you saw what Anthony Perkins did with it, Freddie Highmore has never watched the movie, because he did not want to get influenced by his performance, and it is uncanny how similar they are. Definitely.
You know what I mean? It's freaky how similar they are, and he's never seen the movie. And he still hasn't. He refuses to watch it until maybe the whole thing's over, because he didn't want to be influenced in any kind of way from something else. You know?
That's really, really interesting to hear, because his mannerisms, everything, they are so alike. Pretty spot on.
It's weird. Yep.
Wow. Yep. Shows how the character can really sort of draw you in.
I know.
Excellent.
I know.
So what do you think is about the show that makes it such a success? I mean, it is 5 seasons now. That's a big thing for nowadays. So what do you...
I mean, again, there's an authenticity to dysfunction.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we all have dysfunction in our lives, and when it becomes a psychological dysfunction, I think people get more intrigued by it.
Yeah.
And then you have a mother who will do anything for her son, because every mother doesn't want to admit their son is bad or there's a problem with them, or if they do, they want to treat them as every normal kid in life, and that's human nature.
Yeah.
And I think they stay true to that with even Norma and Norman. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
They don't want to admit the faults and the flaws in these things that could be very real, because love overcomes everything, and the mother's love for a son will trump everything.
Mm-hmm.
and be in denial about the things that maybe you should address, because that's just human nature. And I really think there's something genuine and authentic about it, and I for some reason I think that draws people in, because it gets more and more effed up, and it's more and more dysfunctional, and it's more and more weird, yet we watch it because we're like, how far are they willing to go?
Mm-hmm.
Yet the writers are willing to go there, and those are really dark places. Like Carrie, one of the main showrunner writers of it, Carlton has got his own crazy thing going on, and he's brilliant with that. Carrie always says to me, she goes, I never had a messed up life. She goes, I had a normal life. So she goes, when I write what I write, she goes, I really try to go to a dark place, but at the same time, when I see what Vera does with it, or what Freddie does with it, she goes, I never envisioned that, and they blow me away by how many levels of things they're able to bring to it.
Yeah.
And she goes, I can't take that credit. I got to give it to them, because it just shows you how great they are. So everyone's always giving everyone else the credit, which is another beautiful thing about all of them, is every single person on that show, Olivia, Freddie, Max, Nestor, and Vera, are the most, and Ryan, humblest people in the world. I'm the only one that's the asshole. Everyone else is really, really nice. No, I'm similar. We're all similar. We're very much alike, which is what makes it like a family. We're like, literally, when you see us together as people, we're like silly little kids. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yet when it's about to go on, everyone goes into these places that you're like, how did they get there? Where are they? Because it's pretty wild.
Excellent. You kind of just answered my next question. Was like, Freddie and Vera are both superb in the roles, and the way they can see, obviously Norma's angst as she becomes fearful of his capabilities as the seasons go on, and it's, the standard image you have of, like you say, back in the 60s, the original film of the mother sitting there controlling it, and you can see it the other way around, where she's actually fearful of him. I mean, it must be, how is it working with people like that? Because they seem to have that gel. I mean, you've already talked about it a little bit, but...
I mean, the thing I always say, what makes great actors great is they're so emotionally open and available, and they're so living in the moment that they're not acting. They're able to literally go from moment to moment, and really, I think they're both super hard workers at breaking down their characters and knowing, what's underneath them. They've done so much history that they live in those moments. And there's a genuine thing about Freddie and Vera and all of them and Max that literally allow you to live in that open, naked world. So you're almost not there. You don't know anyone's there. You don't know the cameras are there. You're lost in this world with that other person. And, I mean, I've had it with Forrest Whitaker, with Glenn Close, with, Walton Goggins, with Maria Bello, with, Holly Hunter, with, you go through the line, great actors make you better. And if you, for some reason, if you're an open, available person and you trust being in the moment, you're not acting. You're actually living those moments, which then they capture on screen. And they have the capability to obviously do that. And that's what makes them pretty brilliant, And again, Freddie is a little more method when he needs to get into his role, because he lives in these dark places. Vera is able to just laugh it off. She'll do a crazy, intense scene where she'll go to 7 levels within 8 seconds. And then the scene will be done and she'll just be like, and she'll laugh it off like, was that even any good? You know, like, you know, she's not quite sure if it was there or not there. Yet, when you're on the other end of it or you see it on film, it's all there and it's brilliant, you know, and there's a trust that they have, an openness and a trust of their vessel that the writing's able to just flow through them, and each other affects each other, and whatever their instinctual reaction is, as long as you're true to the character to within a certain realm, it just adds so many colors and dimensions to it, and you can't really explain it. It just is kind of otherworldly, and and that's why they're as brilliant as they are. You know, it's just like a God-given thing, a gift, I think. You know,
fantastic. Yeah, no, I get it. That's it's really interesting to hear, and how they can work with that. And I mean, because it is very disturbing material that they're working with as well. So Vera just being able to laugh that off is good, because obviously it shows she's not deeply psychologically damaged by what she's going through. You know, I mean, I had to do something myself. I did my first filming last year on my own. I was cast as an extra, but on the day they gave me some extra bits to do. Found out that I was actually the character. I had 20 lines. It's an independent film, but it was a paedophile, and I was like, yeah. My first ever acting role was probably the most hardest and disgusting character I've ever had, especially because they put the cloak over the head and you have to say lines, which I never knew I had to do till I got there. But it was, you know, as quickly as the actual director was like, "You sure you want to do this?" Because quite a few people have said they wouldn't do it at all, and I was like, "All I'm doing is saying the lines. I don't mean them."
Right. No, it's a pretty weird stigma, and you know, again, I don't really know, but I do know I didn't have a lot of press or interviews with my character, and I think it's because, you know, I remember talking to the NBC guy, one of the heads that came to have like a party at the end of season 3. You know, and I talked to him, and he was a big fan of mine, and he was really super nice. And we talked, and I said, I'm really shocked that you guys actually went out on a limb and played, you know, like actually went with a character like, you know, in the whole rape thing. I go, that's a really huge thing. And he kept pointing at Carrie. He goes, it's all because of her. She fought so hard for you to be this character on the show because she wanted to address the issue, you know, in a human way. And she fought really, really hard. And I think a lot of the outside press didn't really want to do much with me because from A&E, they just didn't want to push it because of the stigma that comes along with it. And I realized that, you know, and I mean, when I did my first few episodes and I went to a party, the guy who owns Morgan Creek Productions, and they've done tons of movies. And so he's like my best friend. And so I was over there and I'm in line in his backyard, you know, and they hired this truck to get like whatever tacos or fajitas or whatever. And I'm in line, and all of a sudden, and this is, you know, these are like kind of high profile business people in the film business. And, you know, I'm sitting there with my wife, Kathleen, and we're in line, and all of a sudden these ladies look back and they go, oh, yuck, gross. I got to get away from him. This is just too creepy. I can't even be near him. And I'm listening to this, and I'm like, oh, my God, are they talking about me? And they're talking about Caleb. Like, Caleb affected him that much. And I'm like, it's a character. I'm like, I'm not that guy. I go, I'm just portraying a guy and then trying to make him human, you know? And it's just, it's wild. I mean, it's wild, you know? It's like, it's really weird.
Well, that means you've done a really good job, though, because I've heard that quite a few times on, you know, in interviews on TV and stuff, where actors who've played characters which are less than desirable have ended up getting people screaming at them on the streets. But I mean, it's horrendous for you guys as a person, because it's like, that's not me. But, you know, it means if you've done the job well enough that people are actually out there and they've believed the character so much. So it's a kind of a tribute in a way, horrible tribute for you personally when you're experiencing it, but
it's pretty wild. I mean, look, like my thing for me to play it is I always do my history from when I was born till, you know, where I am in this story. So I go through the first 5 years, 5 to 10, 10 to whatever, and I have all the relationships with everybody, everything that happened within, you know, the household. And, you know, I personally have, you know, things that had happened to me when I was 5 years old. I was kidnapped by a cult with a little girl, and a bunch of things happened to us. And she you know, had things that I found out way later on in life when I went back to Connecticut because I was living in Vermont. I moved away when I was pretty young, that her dad was a pedophile. And I didn't realize that, but he was a pedophile. Her mom was really bipolar in real life. And I started hearing all these things that had happened to the kids over the years. And I was with them all the time. So I kind of related. And also sexually, there were things that she had done and started with me at an age where I didn't know what the heck was going on or where she would have learned it. But then I realized later on, because of her dad, where that came from. So right away I'm connecting dots. And so I made my history to parallel real life things in me. And so, you know, for me, I started not me starting things with my sister, but my sister starting things with me. And it was at an age, and we only had each other. And we had that, you know, big abusive alcoholic dad. And I had him having done things to her. And I had the mom being bipolar and borderline schizophrenic. So I had a whole story to kind of follow up on. So when I'm accused of what I'm accused of, I never deny it, but I know what she went through, and I know what position, and I know, all I know is when she said no that one time, I couldn't not do it because that's all I knew for so many years. Who started it? Who knows? But I remember pitching it to, you know, Carrie, the creator, and she goes, no, that would have never happened. That would never happen. No, that didn't happen. I'm like, okay. Yeah, no, I was just saying in real life, like, you know, something kind of strange happened that paralleled it. So I kind of used a lot of those experiences, and I shared it with Carrie, and I remember her going like, no, that would never happen. And I'm like, no, but it actually did happen to me. I go, so it would happen. And I think it planted something in her head to, you know, I'll never discredit what she says, and I'll never, because you know, look, she's the love of my life. You know, my sister was the one person I was in love with, and I didn't know any better, and we didn't know any better, and that just is what it was. But I think the writers then made it a little more ambiguous, you know, like he's never going to say no, like I didn't do it, or no, she started something way back when. He would never do that because he loves her too much to ruin anything she's worked up to being the family woman she is right now and who she is. And if you love somebody that much, you're going to have their back. And I think Caleb, no matter what, will, you know, look, he knows he did it wrong. There's no way to right that wrong, and there's no way to make people say, well, oh, that's excusable or or forgivable, because I don't think he's looking for that. All he wants to do is now in his life find some sort of like, how can I give back a positive or be positive or helpful in some sort of way, because I've got nothing else. I've got nothing else. And, you know, you come to a point, everyone does in their lives when they get older, where, I don't know, you just want to do something positive or good and not be in denial anymore. And I think Caleb, so it's interesting, but I'm telling you, season 5 is just going to come back in a way that's so messed up and weird and jacked up that people are they're gonna love it. I think they're gonna love it.
Fantastic. That's great. Last kind of question I've got for you then, before I let you go, is obviously, what else? Anything else on the horizon? I know you've got Secrets and Lies you've been in, haven't you? Or you're coming up to?
Yeah, I did Secrets and Lies with Juliette Lewis and Michael Ealy and Jordana Brewster and Terry O'Quinn, and it aired on ABC, and it came out. It finished airing. I mean, we did the 10 episodes, and that was really good. I don't know if it aired over there, but
yeah, I think we're a season or 2 behind over here.
Okay, so yeah, that was season 2. They have a new cast every season, so that was actually a great character for me to play. Actually, it was really good. I did a movie with Anthony Hopkins and Colin Farrell called Solace that might have come out over there, but it just got released over here, and it's like the sequel to the movie Seven.
Yeah.
And that was a psychological thriller, which is kind of dope. Yeah, and I think I did one called Run the Tide with Taylor Lautner that just came out last month, and then I did one called No Stranger Pilgrims, and that's like in the festivals right now, and it's like, I think in Checkpoint, I did a movie with William Forsythe and Bill Goldberg called Checkpoint about homegrown terrorism, and that just got released on the January 20th. You know, we're in Vegas for that premiere, and yeah, so that
Brilliant.
was it.
Fantastic. There you go. Hang on. I have it.
Oh, Solace.
Yeah, I've got it on I've got it on Blu-ray.
Oh, that's funny. Oh my god, that's funny.
Yeah, I like it. It's actually a really good film.
On big screen, it's good. On little screen, it never translates quite as good.
Yeah. You have to, I think some things like that you have to sort of watch on the big screen and experience you get drawn into it, don't you?
Yeah. No doubt, man.
But it is good. It is good. Okay, in passing, is there anything you'd like to say before I stop recording? Anything you'd like to say to your fans who are listening?
Well, I just want to say, like, you know, I never really realize anyone ever watches me, so for anyone that does, or that I should say likes or appreciates you know, the shows or the work, I appreciate the support. Any support to me is awesome, and if they're affected by it, I'm very grateful, and I'm grateful that people, you know, have the time to tune into like your show or to the TV shows that I might maybe a part of, and I'm very grateful because I hibernate, so to me, I don't even know if one or two people watch it. I have no idea. So the fact that anybody does is like I'm grateful, and thank you, and keep watching. You know, if you love shows, you know, like me, when I get a show, I get hooked on it, man. I watch it over and over and over and over and over and over. You know, so you know, I appreciate it, man. There's much love to the fans because without them, we're really nothing. You know, so it's a beautiful thing.
Excellent.
Thank you very much, Kenny, and thank you to everyone who's listened, everyone who's watched, and everyone who's sent questions in. Hope you all enjoyed that. Hope you all enjoy the new format via video as well. This has been Chris Gordon on Hellblazer Biz with Kenny Johnson. Goodbye.